Gratefully Gifted, a podcast for gifted kids made by gifted kids because we do think it's great to be gifted. On today's episode, we will interview Kate Albus, who is an award-winning author and wrote 2 books about kids living at the time of World War II. We will learn more about World War II, so let's get started.
Hello and welcome to First Some Fun. First, we will be talking about some interesting facts. Did you know that between 75 and 85 million people died in World War II? Most being civilians, but still very many soldiers, about 20 million, actually. While the Polish were evacuating from the Soviet Union, on their way to Iran, they befriended a Syrian bear and named it Wojtek. They eventually listed him as a private in the unit, and it helped carry ammo and other supplies during World War II. America didn't join World War II until December 7, 1941, because President FDR didn't want anything to happen to the country. But once Japan launched the attack of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, the U.S. got mad and joined the war with the Allies. Now it's time for a short quiz. How many people died during World War II? Drum roll, please. Between 75 and 85 million people died in the 6 years during World War II. What was the name of the bear the Polish army befriended while evacuating from the Soviet Union? Drum roll, please. They named the bear Wojtek. Final question. When did America join World War II? Drum roll, please. On December 7th, 1941, America finally joined the war due to the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Now it's time for talking time.
Today we are here with Kate Albus. She wrote the books A Place to Hang the Moon and Nothing Else But Miracles. She is visiting our school today, so we have taken the chance to interview her since both her books are about World War II. So let's get into the questions.
What or who inspired you to be an author?
Oh, that's a great question. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast today. Let's see. The person who inspired me to be an author is actually a good friend of mine. Her name is Summer, and she used to be a high school English teacher. And then when she retired from doing that, she started running creative writing workshops out of her home. And I just went because I wanted to be a good friend to her and support her new endeavor that she was working on. And I went to her first workshop and I fell in love with the process of sitting down and putting words together and making up stories. So Summer is the reason that I started making stuff up in the first place.
That's so cool. It's a great friendship. Have you always wanted to be a writer or an author of books?
I have not. I never, honestly, I only recently started even imagining that this would actually be what I call my job. In fact, even after A Place to Hang the Moon came out, when people ask me what I do for a living, I always would sort of say, I guess I write children's books. I guess I'm a writer? Question mark. So no, I've come to being a writer sort of late in my life, and with a lot of luck and a lot of joy and a lot of gratitude that I'm here. But no, before I started writing stories, I was a science writer. And before that, I was a child psychologist. And before that, I wanted to be a school bus driver, a ballerina, and a horse trainer. But none of those things actually happened yet, at least.
Yeah.
If they did happen, what would you be happy or sad that you weren't doing writing anymore?
Oh, that's a really good question. Oh, I think I'd like to think that I could be both a ballerina and a writer at the same time. Like you could be a ballerina at night and a writer during the day would be my hope.
That would be a very interesting job.
Yes. What made you decide to write about World War II in 2 of your books?
Oh gosh, well, with the first one, with A Place to Hang the Moon, since the story came out of something that actually happened in history, in the Second World War, that was sort of the inspiration behind the story. Was definitely a historical event that happened in World War II. So at least with that one, it was sort of a natural progression that that's what the story would be about.
What inspired you to continue to write about World War II and nothing else but miracles?
You know, it's funny because the inspiration for the story was something that was this secret space in New York City that was sort of found in the 1950s. So I suppose I probably could have set that story at any time. It didn't really have to be a World War II story, but as I sat down and started writing, the story eventually sort of became about the ways that a community comes together to support one another, and the little everyday miracles that happen when people show kindness to each other, and when people are part of a supportive community. And honestly, I was writing nothing else but miracles in sort of the scariest part of the pandemic. And at a time when it seemed like every time you turned on the TV, you saw a lot of images or heard a lot of stories of people that weren't making decisions in the best interest of their community, that weren't acting with other people's best interests at heart. And I think I really craved that. I think I really craved I really wanted to feel like we were living in a world where people would take care of each other, and where people would do right by their neighbors, and sort of work toward the common good. So I think that story kind of got set during World War II because, at least in my head, that seems like a time when people really were willing to sacrifice a lot of things in the interest of the community, in the interest of their friends and neighbors and their country. So I think that was why the second one was set during that time.
Yeah, that makes sense, since a lot of people were like going out to war to protect other people.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there an author you look up to?
Oh gosh, there are so many authors that I look up to. The list is very long. A couple of people have sort of asked this question while I've been here today, and I don't mind saying again that the stories I most love myself are stories that are particularly good read alouds. And my favorite author to read out loud is Kate DiCamillo. And my favorite of her books is The Tale of Despero. It is such a good book to read out loud.
What is your favorite part in that book?
Oh, my favorite part is, this is going to sound funny because it's not really a part, but Despero is one of those books where she does a lot of I guess what you call narrative asides, where she kind of turns around and instead of telling the story, turns around and talks directly to the reader and says, dear reader. Lots of times it's something about vocabulary. Like if she uses the word, I forget exactly what the word is, but there's a word in there like treachery. And she sort of turns to the reader and says, reader, can you imagine what it would feel like to have someone engage in treachery with you? And I think that's my favorite thing about those books, is the way that she sort of every once in a while steps outside of the story and talks directly to you as a reader. I love that.
Like a very immersive book.
Yep.
I want to be a writer when I'm older. So what do you recommend young authors do to get their books published someday?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I first of all, what I would say is that to bring it back to my friend Summer that I talked about when we first started talking, Summer would say that a writer is someone who writes. So if you're already writing, you're already a writer. You're good to go. But in terms of getting published, I think the two pieces of advice that I would give is, first, something that you've probably heard a million times, which is to read a lot. I've never taken a proper writing class. I've never, other than just the writing assignments that I was given when I was in elementary school and middle school and high school and college, I've never really taken a writing class. But I do read a lot. And I think it's by reading a lot and reading all the things, reading even stuff that you don't think you're necessarily going to enjoy. Reading widely gives you a good sense of what it is that you love about books. And I think oftentimes the things that make you love reading are the same things that make you love writing, and the same things that you're going to try to emulate in your own work. So that would be my first piece of advice, is to read all the things. And my second piece of advice would be, again, probably something that you're already doing by being part of this podcast and all the various bookish things that are going on in your school and in your community, is to find your people and find your group of supportive bookish folks that are going to want to tell you stories and listen to your stories and read what you've written and let you read what they've written. That becoming part of a bookish community is I think one of the best things that you can do in your own writing journey.
Next up, I'm bored. Now what? If you want to do a project that shows how hard it was to live in the times of World War II, here's how to do it. People in World War II had to ration everything from food to gas. So for this project, you will need to limit yourself to making food with only 1 egg, 2 ounces each of tea and butter, an ounce of cheese, 8 ounces of sugar, 4 ounces of bacon, and you only have 1 liter of water a day. This isn't exactly what they ate in World War II, but it's pretty close. You might find this challenging, but that's okay. This is meant to be challenging. If it becomes too hard, you can back out at any time. So have fun seeing how living in the times of World War II were.
That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned some things you didn't already know. If you enjoyed it, please share it with others and like and subscribe where you listen to this podcast. We appreciate your support, and if you would like to reach out to us with other topic ideas, just email us at gratefully.gifted, that is in those spaces, at branson.k12.mo.us. We all feel grateful to be gifted, and we hope that you do as well, because being gifted is great.